Dear boomers, ageism in healthcare is a danger for our older patients. Ageism is deeply rooted in healthcare. It's also deeply rooted in our media. It's deeply rooted in the people that you meet who suddenly know your age and start treating you accordingly. We're going to explore how this bias affects medical care and what we can do to change it. Ageism is discrimination based on a person's age. In healthcare settings, it manifests in subtle but harmful ways, from talking too loudly to older patients to dismissing their concerns. Just imagine an older person in a doctor's office or in their little cubicle waiting for the doctor, and the doctors are talking over them. So a recent study found that older people spend as much as 21 days a year or more at medical appointments. Many of them experience ageism each and every time they go to the doctor, which can lead to overtreatment and undertreatment. So one doctor explains how she went into a room of a patient who was in her 80s, and she noticed that healthcare workers were speaking to them at a top volume, addressing the doctor instead of the patient. This is common, and it shares how healthcare workers would speak to their parents as if they were deaf, leading her father to say, "I'm not deaf. You don't have to yell." These behaviors, while they may seem harmless, are part of a larger issue: ageism in healthcare. A geriatrician explains how ageism can result in a patient not receiving necessary care. The doctors may look at a patient's age and say, "You're too old for this treatment," not considering the person's health, function, and priorities, because there are a lot of older Americans who are in very good health. I mean, they have to have their health monitored closer than younger people because of their age, so that they can, overcome these things. There's another example of how medical school allocates just 2 weeks of training to teach about older adults in a 4-year curriculum. This lack of training leads to overtreatment or the piling on of unnecessary medications, which can harm older patients. Changing the narrative, quote, it's a program, Changing the Narrative, states that negative beliefs about aging can accelerate cognitive decline, increase depression, and even shorten lifespans by up to 7.5 years. So, I mean, the idea here is not to take on these biases against us. We don't have to believe them. Just because an authority believes them doesn't mean I have to or you have to believe them. A 2020 study revealed that age-biased discrimination, negative stereotypes, and dismissive attitudes towards aging cost the healthcare system $63 billion a year. This not only impacts individuals, but obviously it puts a strain on healthcare resources. The Institute of Health Improvement launched this age-friendly health systems to help combat ageism, because it's obvious that it exists and it's obvious that it is harmful. Their goal is to train healthcare workers to engage with older patients respectfully, offering individualized care based on their specific needs. We all deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of our age. But by raising awareness and advocating for change, we can create a healthcare system that sees older adults as individuals, not just numbers. Ageism, when the intent is benign, says an author who wrote the book Elderhood, we all start young, and you think of yourself as young, but older people from the very beginning are other. This tendency to see older adults as other doesn't just result in loud greetings, but or being called honey or sweetheart while having your blood pressure taken, both of which can dent a person's morale. So there is an assumption that older people are frail. It's a frail, homogeneous group that can cause this causes more serious issues, such as when a patient doesn't receive the care that they need because the doctor is seeing a number and not an individual. Ageism is a cross-cultural reality. Ageism creeps in even when the intent is benign. She wrote this, who says the author of the book who wrote Elderhood. Hey. We all start young, and you think of yourself as young, but this other kind of behavior affects everybody. If you look at a person and say they're too old for this or for that, it's a total insult. Let the patient decide what they want. And there is a program called Changing the Narrative, an organization that wants to end ageism in our society, because ageism is more likely to be found in the U.S. rather than other countries. She says that research shows that negative beliefs about aging, or our own or other people's, are detrimental to our health as a nation and individually. It can accelerate cognitive decline, as we said, and it can increase anxiety. It increases depression. It can shorten our lifespans by up to 7.5 years. But beliefs can change. When we have positive beliefs about age and aging, these things are all flipped, and we tend to live longer lives when we have a more positive outlook about our own aging. And so there's older adults can push back on some of these attitudes when they're in the doctor's office, but they may feel like their concerns are dismissed by statements such as, "It's to be expected at your age." The age-friendly health systems was launched in 2018, and the fact that doctors are ageist and the way they approach older people, it's harming older patients. And without a major health change, a major change in the healthcare industry, more and more of us will be at risk. We will be at risk when we seek care. Elderly patients receive less engagement and less information than other patients from the very practitioners who are supposed to improve our health and our well-being. So one woman talks about going to the doctor with her 85-year-old father, and the doctor brushed off his complaints about chronic health pain, chronic back pain, as well as observations about his failing memory and his balance problems. It's normal at his age, the doctor said. When asked about the 14 different medications and supplements he is on, the primary care practitioner quickly scanned several pages in the electronic record, but decided not to make any changes since other specialists prescribed them for good reason. He mentioned that he wasn't comfortable overruling another physician, though he also wouldn't take any action on his own, like supplying him with a walker. "My dad," she said, is not only the elderly patient to take so many medications and to have his doctor dismiss his concerns about them with a shrug. The problem starts early in the drug treatment process. Frequently excluded from clinical trials are the very older adults, and the medications are meant to help, and whose changing physiology causes them to metabolize drugs differently. In fact, it just becomes more difficult to metabolize drugs. And when doctors fail to recognize when standard medication doses are only appropriate for much younger patients, often they don't change the dose. And so many people may be having a lot of confusion because of the medications they have been prescribed. So medication-related problems are estimated to be one of the top 5 causes of death in those 65 and older groups, and a major cause of confusion, depression, falls, disability, and a loss of independence. 1 in 3 seniors who take 5 or more medications will have at least one bad drug reaction each year. 2/3 will require medical attention, and those over 65 are 2.5 times more likely to visit an emergency room for an adverse drug reaction than any younger individuals. This is a deep-seated failing in our medical delivery system to elderly patients, and this is indicative of a larger problem in healthcare, as we have said several times, ageism. We medicalize the natural process of aging, then look down on the patients who come to seek care from us, and then we don't adequately prepare the doctors they visit to address their particular needs. The U.S. population is getting older, and without a major change in values, training, and attitudes of the mainstream healthcare community, more and more of us will be harmed when we seek care as senior citizens. So ageism permeates the attitudes of medical providers, also the mindset of older individuals, and the structure of the healthcare system, having a potentially profound influence on the type and amount of care offered, requested, and received, according to research by geriatrician and for the American Society on Aging. An analysis of national health and retirement study data found that 1 in 5 adults over 50 experience age-related discrimination in healthcare settings. 1 in 17 said they experience it frequently. The bias is associated with new or worsening disability, poorer mental and physical health, and use of fewer preventative health services. And other studies found that age-related discrimination to be common in diagnostic procedures and in the types of treatment offered to patients, especially in cardiology, oncology, and stroke care. Compared with younger patients, older adults were less involved in their own health care decision-making, and doctors were less tolerant, less respectful, and less optimistic. Even the government health-related agencies such as the CDC frequently lumps everybody over 65 into one homogeneous group, but those individuals' remaining health spans could easily exceed 20 to 30 years, and they're no more alike than their infants and tweens or kindergartens and high schoolers. These stereotypes matter a lot. Many physicians, as well as older adults themselves, believe that pain, fatigue, depression, and dependency are a normal part of aging. These older patients are less likely to seek health care for themselves, and if they do, they risk being undertreated. Ailments like poor hearing or cognitive decline can brand a patient as non-compliant or difficult. And that means that these providers communicate differently with their older patients than with younger ones, and they are less patient, less engaged, and provide less information. And often treatable conditions such as arthritis and chronic pain are dismissed as just a part of old age. Ageism in healthcare, it's alive and well, and by shedding a light on this problem and this dilemma, we can change things in this country. Another film will show up right over here. Right over here. Please subscribe, and I am on my way to 1,000 subscribers, and I appreciate your help in getting me there. Bye-bye.